Why do you have to keep holding yourself together just to be loved? Love is not a competition to see who can endure more, nor is it a place where you must trade your peace to keep someone from leaving. When you have to fake a smile, swallow your tears, and tell yourself they're just busy while your heart feels tangled and heavy, that is no longer love. That is your soul trying to hold on to something it already knows must be released. Maybe love has never left you. Maybe it's only teaching you how to love on a deeper level, where love is no longer about holding on, but about seeing clearly. Every soul comes into this world to learn its own lesson about love. And sometimes, that lesson does not live inside joy, but inside the quiet ache of loss. We've been taught that love means patience, sacrifice, endurance. But no one told you that real love doesn't require strain. It doesn't ask you to chase, to guess, or to lose your calm to prove you are worthy. When love begins to make you smaller, when you must try too hard to be enough, it is your soul calling you home. You start laughing less, sleeping less, living inside the fear that if you are not perfect, they will leave. And to keep them, you begin to shrink. You speak less. You silence your hurt. You smile through things you should never have accepted. And slowly you fade from yourself. But love was never meant to make you forget who you are. It was meant to help you meet yourself through the mirror of another. Sometimes the person you love doesn't come to stay. They come to awaken you. They are the doorway to the inner world, the place where your wounds, your fears, and your light wait to be seen. When love becomes exhausting, pause, not to judge, but to listen to what your soul's trying to say. Because every pain is not punishment, it's transformation. The moment when your heart expands to hold more light. The right person will never make you guess. They will never force you to endure in silence just to be loved. With them, you will breathe easier. You can be quiet, be soft, be true. Not because they are perfect, but because they never make you question your own worth. Yet sometimes we don't stay because we love. We stay because we fear the emptiness that comes after. We fear the silence of being alone, the echo of our own thoughts, the truth that maybe it was never them we were afraid to lose, but the part of ourselves we abandoned long ago. Love was never meant to cost your peace. It was meant to bring your soul to stillness, not unrest. If someone makes you anxious more than they bring you calm, if you must fight to stay seen, then what you are holding on to isn't love. It is reflection. It is the universe sending you a signal. It's time to love yourself. You don't need to hold on to keep someone. Real love never asks you to abandon yourself. If they leave, let them. A soul withdraws only from places that no longer match its vibration. And when one door closes, it's not the end. It's an invitation from the universe to step into the next stage of who you are becoming. Sit still. No need to think. Let silence hold you. You will realize love never left. It simply changed form. It moved from another person back into you. You deserve a love that doesn't make you strain, a connection where your soul can rest, someone who can see you even in your most fragile moments, and the courage within yourself to keep loving, even after you've been broken. But if love is truly that simple, why do we keep finding ourselves drawn to those who hurt us? Why does the heart, even when it knows better, choose the same path of pain to learn how to love again? The answer isn't in them. It lies in the movement of your soul, the force quietly arranging every meeting so that, through love and loss alike, you may return to yourself. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Until we bring what is hidden into awareness, it will keep shaping our choices and we will mistake it for destiny." Have you ever noticed how you keep meeting the same kind of person, just with a different face? A new story, but the same feeling. That same quiet anxiety, that fear of being abandoned, that ache to prove you're worth loving. And you wonder, why does this keep happening to me? It's not because you're unlucky. It's not because the universe wants to make you suffer. It's because your soul is guiding you back to the place where it still needs healing. We aren't only drawn to people who make us happy. We are drawn to those who make us remember. Remember the parts of ourselves we've hidden, the wounds that still wait for light. When you meet someone and your heart reacts so strongly, ask not, am I in love? But what part of me is being awakened? Because sometimes that magnetic pull isn't love at all. It's the soul's way of pointing you toward what is still unresolved. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Carl Jung. Everything that hurts us in another person mirrors something we have yet to understand within ourselves. The one who wounds you is, at a deeper level, a mirror, reflecting the part of you that you have not yet faced. If you once had to earn love, you will feel drawn to people who make you work for it. If you fear being left behind, you will find those who awaken that fear again. If love once came with conditions, you will unconsciously seek the same familiar pain. This is not punishment. It is how the soul evolves. It brings you back to the same crossroads until you choose differently, until you love without fear. When someone hurts you, it isn't only pain that arrives, it's also an invitation to return to what you've disowned. That could be the inner child, the one who longed to be loved without effort, to be seen without having to prove their worth. Jung called it the shadow. The shadow isn't evil. It's simply what has been forgotten. When you meet someone who touches that shadow, you feel it instantly. It's not chemistry between two bodies. It's resonance between two souls seeking wholeness. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Carl Jung. Every encounter is a reaction. If there is resonance, both will change. You don't meet them by chance. You meet them because your souls have agreed to trigger transformation. Love, at its deepest level, is the process of integrating opposites, light and shadow, giving and receiving, strength and vulnerability. The person you're drawn to reflects the side of you that is incomplete, and your soul, in its wisdom, always chooses the one who will help you face that missing piece. So, when you fall for someone who brings both desire and pain, look beyond the story. Look into the energy. What are you learning through them? What are you being asked to heal within yourself? Maybe you are learning boundaries. Maybe you are learning to say no. Maybe, for the first time, you are learning to choose yourself. Love is not only an emotion between two people. It is the way the soul evolves. Through love, we don't just come closer to another. We come closer to our own essence. Some connections exist only to open a door, and when the lesson is learned, they fade. They were never meant to be kept. They were meant to awaken you. One day you will look back and realize that every person who hurt you served a sacred purpose. They held up a mirror so you could finally see your own reflection. Not your face, but your soul. And when you understand this, pain stops being the enemy. It becomes the light. And that light, even when born from heartbreak, is what guides you home to the kind of love that no longer comes from fear, but from pure presence. When we realize that the other person is only a mirror, we begin to look deeper into the place within us where both light and shadow are waiting to become one. Some people enter your life carrying both light and shadow. They make you shine, and then somehow, they're the ones who make you break. In those moments of heartbreak, you think they're the cause, but in truth, they are only mirrors, reflecting back the deepest parts of your soul that you haven't yet had the courage to face. Love is not merely a story between two people. It is a dialogue between two souls, meeting, reflecting, awakening. When you meet someone who shakes you to your core, it isn't just coincidence or fate. It's the meeting of two energies, one holding the light you seek, and the other stirring the darkness you've hidden. Through that collision, your soul begins to see itself more completely. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Every encounter is a chemical reaction of the soul. If there's resonance, both are changed. And because of that, everyone you meet plays a part in your evolution. Whether they bring you joy or pain, the one who hurts you doesn't destroy you. They awaken you. They show you where you are still fragile, where healing has not yet reached. The one who loves you doesn't complete you. They help you remember the part of you that already knew how to love. No one crosses your path by accident. Each is sent to mirror something back to you, to mirror whether you love from truth or from fear, to show whether you're opening your heart or merely afraid of being left behind, to reveal whether you're truly living now or still repeating an old memory. Every time you are triggered, your soul whispers, "Look here. This is where the light has not yet reached." When you begin to see that, pain stops being the enemy. It becomes a clear mirror, one that helps you recognize yourself more deeply. In spiritual language, this is called a mirror connection. Two souls meeting like two mirrors facing each other, each reflecting the other's light, and also each revealing its own cracks. You love them not just for who they are, but for what they awaken in you. You hurt because of them, but really, you are hurting for the part of you that still longs to be embraced. Some relationships are unforgettable, not because of romance, but because your soul knows. If you truly understood why they appeared, you would never be the same again. They awaken you from the sleep of unconsciousness. They push you toward the journey home. The journey of learning to love without seeking anything outside of yourself. Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The greatest privilege of being alive is to become your truest self. But to become that, you must face everything you've denied, your light, your shadow, your love, and your pain. And the people you meet are simply doors that open to that transformation. When you love someone, you are loving the reflection of your own soul that you see through them. When you suffer because of someone, you are seeing the part of yourself that still needs love. If you can look at them as mirrors, you will no longer resent them. You will feel gratitude, because through them, you begin to heal. When perception shifts, energy shifts. The one who once had the power to hurt you loses that power. They become a symbol, not of pain, but of awakening. And then, you can remember them with peace. No bitterness, no longing, only quiet gratitude for the mirror they once held up for you. True love is not when two people hold on forever. It is when they help each other see their own souls. And sometimes, seeing is enough. Not everyone who arrives is meant to stay, but everyone who touches your soul becomes a part of your becoming. So if you're thinking of someone right now, someone you can't seem to forget, know that you don't have to close that door. You only need to walk through it with understanding, not resentment. Because what your soul seeks was never possession, but recognition, to see itself reflected in the experience of love. When you stop searching for love outside yourself and begin to see the light that's been within you all along, that is when the real healing begins. When you stop searching for love outside yourself and begin turning inward, you discover something extraordinary. Peace has never depended on someone staying. It begins the moment you are no longer afraid of being alone. There comes a stage like that, when you no longer care who comes or goes. You no longer explain, no longer need to be understood. You simply sit in silence, looking gently at the wounds that once tore you apart. And instead of resentment, you find yourself smiling softly at your own pain. Because now you understand. Nothing that happened was a mistake. The one who hurt you did not destroy you. They revealed you. The one who left did not abandon you. They simply fulfilled their role in your soul's journey. Every meeting, every ending, carries its own sacred purpose, and your soul has never been lost. Carl Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." We do not reach enlightenment by dreaming of light, but by daring to look into the darkness within. And that is where true healing begins, not when you escape the pain, but when you sit beside it and listen. Healing is not forgetting. It's not erasing the memory or pretending it never happened. Healing is when you can look back and your heart no longer trembles. It's when you can see the one who once hurt you and say quietly, "Thank you. Because of you, I learned to love myself more." That is the moment the soul blossoms, like a lotus rising from the mud. You no longer fight your darkness, you hold it. Because only when you embrace both shadow and light do you become whole. You may have lived through long nights, sleepless and silent, moments where the ache felt endless. But it was in those nights that you were shaped, not into someone colder, but someone deeper. You learned that love is not always sweet, but it is always true. You learn that those who leave never take anything truly yours. They simply make space for you to meet yourself again. Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And yet that is the very act that sets you free. Because when you stop running from yourself, when you stop trying to please the world, you begin to live, not as a role, but as presence. And in that presence, you are free. No longer bound by who stays or who leaves. No longer ruled by fear of loss. You begin to love not from emptiness, but from fullness. You give not to keep, but because love is the natural expression of your soul. Healing is not a path upward. It's a path inward, into the quiet place where you meet the child who once feared, the heart that once broke, and for the first time, you don't try to fix them. You simply sit beside them and whisper, "I'm here." Then you realize, nothing needs fixing, only understanding. No one needs forgetting, only forgiveness. And when forgiveness comes, energy moves again. The heart opens again. But this time, it opens not for someone else, it opens for you. You stop asking, "Why did they treat me that way?" and begin asking, "What did I learn through this?" That's when your soul grows, not through knowledge, but through awareness. You realize love has never been outside of you. It lives in the way you see the world, in the way you hold yourself with tenderness, and in the quiet joy of knowing you no longer need anyone to complete you. When you reach that state, calm, bright, whole, you begin to attract souls vibrating at the same frequency. People who don't come to fill your emptiness, but to expand your light. Who don't come to own you, but to walk with you, freely, presently. And that is what true love feels like. No longer a chase, no longer a grip, but two souls who recognize each other and choose to walk together in freedom. Once you've walked through the darkness and understood that everything had purpose, your soul begins to shift in vibration, and that is when gentler, lighter, truer things start to find their way to you. When you have walked through the darkness and learned to look at your pain with gratitude, your soul begins to change its frequency. You no longer attract the same people, the same patterns, the same kind of love that made you shrink. Because your energy is different now, softer, calmer, more authentic. When you change within, the world around you must shift. Those who once hurt you will drift away, not because you hate them, but because your energies no longer align. The things that used to scare you dissolve, because you no longer vibrate at the frequency of fear. You don't have to start over, because your new presence already is the beginning. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists. Whatever you fight against will continue to live, but when you accept, it naturally dissolves. And when you learn to accept yourself, both the light and the shadow, you no longer need to fight life. You begin to live like a river, still natural and whole. The energy of a healed soul carries something unmistakable. It doesn't chase, it doesn't prove, it doesn't need to be loud. It's quiet but powerful. And when you walk into a room, others can feel something different about you. Not from your words, but from the calm in your eyes. And that is when true love begins to find you. Not the kind that keeps you awake, anxious, or guessing, but the kind that allows you to be. Someone who can sit beside you in silence and still feel deeply connected. Someone who doesn't come to fill your emptiness, but to expand with you. Someone who doesn't come to make you perfect, but to make you real. It's the love between two awakened souls. They don't need each other to exist. They choose each other to grow. They don't come to possess, they come to be present. From that moment, you stop asking, when will I meet the right person? Because when you become the energy of love, the right person can't help but find you. Trust that the universe never gets the timing wrong. Everything that comes, and whether joy or pain, has been designed to awaken you. And now, as your energy changes, you begin to see perfection, even in what once felt unfinished. If you're hearing this now, your soul is likely ready for its next phase, the phase of expansion, where you no longer seek love, but become love, where you no longer chase peace, because you are peace. When your inner energy becomes clear, life begins to mirror that clarity back to you. You start to attract souls who match your vibration, gentle opportunities, aligned moments, and even small miracles that appear effortlessly when fear no longer controls your energy. And perhaps this is only the beginning of your greatest transformation. Because when the soul expands, you don't just feel different, you see differently. The same things that once caused pain now become teachers. The ones who left become blessings in disguise. In the next chapter of this journey, we'll explore this deeper. How an awakened soul becomes a living field of energy, a magnetic presence that naturally draws love, abundance, and experiences that match its truth. If you can feel this message resonating with you, then stay with me and subscribe to the channel, because this journey is far from over. We're only halfway through the transformation, and if you've made it here, it means your soul is already ready for what's coming next. When your soul has healed, it begins to radiate a very specific kind of energy. You no longer need to chase, to prove, or to search. Your presence itself becomes an invitation, a quiet magnet that draws in what is meant for you. Because energy never lies, it is the first language of the soul. You can see this reflected everywhere in life. When you are at peace, everything around you softens. Conversations flow more naturally. The people who cross your path carry similar energy. They don't come to take, but to exchange. And the universe begins to respond through what Jung called synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that feel too aligned to be random. Carl Jung described it this way: synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Coincidence is not luck. It is reflection. The universe mirroring your internal frequency, the soul's way of speaking once you've begun to awaken. As your energy becomes clearer, you start noticing small signs you once overlooked. A chance encounter, a sentence someone says in passing, a gust of wind that brushes your skin at just the right moment. Everything seems to be guiding you somewhere, and it is guiding you back to yourself. This is the nature of energy, to attract, not to chase. When the soul shines brightly enough, it doesn't need to seek. It simply is. And that state of being becomes a magnetic field, drawing toward you people, opportunities, and peace that share your vibration. The fascinating thing about soul energy is that it never deceives. If something feels wrong, even when logic insists it's fine. Trust the feeling. The soul always knows before the mind can understand. Many call it intuition, but truly it is the oldest language of energy, the connection between your inner being and the living intelligence of the universe. It knows what belongs to you and what has already served its purpose. When you begin to live in alignment with this energy, life becomes lighter, like breath. You no longer overthink or control. You move with the rhythm of existence itself. You sense when to advance and when to pause. You recognize who arrives to teach you and who arrives to walk beside you. Your soul becomes like a clear river. It doesn't rush or force its flow. It simply reflects what passes through. And in that reflection, you realize life is not something to manage, but something you are co-creating with the universe. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when you finally live as your true self, unmasked, unguarded, unapologetically authentic, the world begins to mirror that truth back to you. It's not that life has changed, it's that your vibration has. When you dwell in the energy of love, you attract love. When you live in gratitude, you attract miracles. When you embody peace, peace begins to surround you. You no longer need to do so much, you simply be, and everything aligns. That is when you see clearly. Everything you once prayed for has arrived, not because you found it, but because you became it. You become the love you were looking for. You become the light you once admired. And you become the answer your soul has been waiting for. When you become the vibration of what you desire, the world stops opposing you. Everything begins to move in one direction, toward the union between your soul and your reality. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. Rumi, there are days when you suddenly feel an unfamiliar peace. No great joy, no deep sadness, just a stillness that feels infinite. The world around you hasn't changed, yet something within you has shifted. You no longer want to run, to prove, or to search. You simply sit, and everything feels right. That is the moment when the soul and reality begin to speak the same language. No longer a gap between what you desire and what is. No longer separation between you and the world. You realize you were never missing anything. You had only forgotten how to listen inward. Carl Jung once said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. The shoe that fits one may wound another, meaning there is no universal path. No one can tell you who to be. Only in the silence of your own being can you hear the truth that belongs to you." When the soul and reality merge, you stop seeking answers outside. You no longer ask, "When will it happen?" Because you can feel that it already is. Not in the future, but right here, in the pulse of this moment, in every breath, in every beam of light, everything around you, the sound, the wind, the faces, the light, becomes part of one great symphony. And you, no longer the listener, realize you are the music itself. This is the state of unity consciousness, where the soul no longer seeks anything outside itself, for it has recognized that everything external is a reflection of the internal. The world no longer happens to you, it unfolds through you. When you live in this awareness, effort disappears. You stop trying to control life and begin to let energy move as it will. What isn't aligned will gently fade away. What belongs will find its way to you. No grasping, no resistance, just trust in the rhythm of the soul, which always knows the way home. And when you live in that rhythm, every act becomes meditation. Walking becomes meditation. Speaking becomes meditation. Breathing becomes meditation. Loving becomes meditation. Because you are no longer doing, you are being. You begin to see that peace is not a prize for the deserving, but a natural state that appears when you stop fighting yourself. Life no longer feels like a test, but a mirror reflecting your current vibration. Carl Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Those who look outside are dreaming. Those who look within awaken. And once you awaken, you no longer need to understand life, and because you have become life itself. Reality is no longer something to reach. It is the river you flow with. Every breath is a prayer. Every glance an act of gratitude. Every touch a sacred expression of love. When the soul and reality become one, questions dissolve. No more, who am I? Only I am. No more, where should I go? Only, I am here. No more, who should I love? Only I am love. You become the meeting point between energy and form, between the observer and the observed, between the universe and yourself. No boundaries, no division, only presence, pure and luminous. And from that moment on, you no longer need to attract what is good. You simply live as truth, because what is good no longer needs to be called. It finds you naturally, like light flowing into the space that welcomes it. But in a world that is constantly shifting, how do you keep that light without losing your inner peace? That is the next lesson. The lesson of a maturing soul. It's easy to feel peaceful when you're alone. The real lesson begins when you can keep that peace while the world around you trembles. After the soul has touched unity, the next challenge always arrives. How do you carry that light back into daily life, into work, relationships, and ordinary moments? Not to prove that you are awakened, but to live that awakening in the middle of a world that never stops moving. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. There is no awakening without discomfort. Light only becomes real when it survives the dark. And in the same way, your peace becomes true only when it is tested by the noise of life. When you step back into the world, you'll face chaos, friction, misunderstanding, people who cannot yet recognize the quiet energy you carry. But remember this, you are not here to be understood. You are here to be present, not to convince anyone, but to keep the flame within you alive, no matter how strong the wind outside may be. The truth is, light does not need to defeat darkness. It only needs to keep shining. A single candle can dissolve the night in a room. Likewise, your stillness, your kangchampung, your calm voice, your gentle eyes, your silence among the noise, has more power than you can imagine. When you keep your light, you become an invitation for others to return to themselves, not through words, but through energy. Not through teaching, but through living. Jung once wrote, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. To understand your own shadow is the only way to stay peaceful in the presence of another's. So when you see someone lost in anger or fear, don't rush to fix them. Just stay clear. If you don't get pulled into the storm, you become the calm at its center. Life will still unfold. You'll still work, love, and sometimes stumble. There will still be moments of weakness, disappointment, and doubt. But unlike before, you now have a place to return to. A quiet space inside yourself where you can pause, breathe, and remember you don't have to react right away. Every time you slow your breath, you are returning to your soul. Every time you choose to listen instead of argue, you are keeping your light alive. Every time you forgive, you are freeing yourself from the vibration of pain. And through those small acts, your light endures, not through force, but through the quiet strength of love. There's an old Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Its meaning is simple. Awakening doesn't take you out of the world. It allows you to live within it without being consumed by it. You are still human, still emotional. There will still be good days and hard days, old wounds that ache from time to time. But now you are aware. You observe without judging. You feel without resistance. You exist without losing yourself. At that point, you no longer hold the light. You are the light. Not a dazzling light that seeks attention, but the soft radiance that comes from understanding, from compassion, from the acceptance of both yourself and the world as they are. And then you realize, peace isn't something to protect, it's something to share. Because when you give peace, it doesn't fade, it multiplies. When you've learned to keep your light steady, your soul begins to guide you even deeper, to the place where love is no longer emotion, but the energy that nourishes all things. True love does not come to make us happy. It comes to make us deeper, because only when we have known pain do we learn how to love without holding on. Carl Jung once said, "Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking." Where love exists, control disappears. Real love does not demand, does not compete, does not need to win. It is not born from fear, but from understanding. Not to possess, but to free. When you reach this depth of love, everything around you begins to move more slowly. The chaos quiets. The emotional drama fades. Love becomes like still water, flowing, nourishing, yet silent. You start to see love everywhere, in the way sunlight touches the leaves in a child's laughter, in the nod between two strangers who understand without words. Love is no longer something you seek. It is the air you breathe, the presence that lives through you. This is love beyond the personal. Love as energy. It is the invisible current connecting all life, the breath of the universe itself. It moves through you and through everything that exists. You no longer love to be loved back. You love because you are love. Because your soul has become an open doorway through which this energy can flow freely. To people, to places, to every living thing. Jung described this as the merging of the self and the soul. The human and the divine no longer separate. At this stage, you don't practice love. You become it. When you listen to someone with full presence, that is love. When you forgive, that is love. When you pause to breathe deeply in the middle of your day, that too is love. And then you realize love isn't grand. It's the simplest thing in existence. But because we've been searching for it in distant places, we forgot that it never left us. Jung once wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Every meeting is a chemical reaction of souls, and when you love from this energetic state, you no longer influence others, aren't you transformed together? No one saves the other, both awaken. At this level, love is fearless, because it cannot be lost. It cannot be divided by distance or time, because it doesn't live in form. It lives in energy. When you love like this, your gaze can soothe someone's pain. Your touch can remind them they are seen. Your presence alone can warm an entire room. That is not magic. It is love moving through you. And when you let it flow without resistance, life itself softens. It becomes lighter, quieter, more real. There is no longer right or wrong, no need to fix or to change. Only love, unspoken, invisible, but powerful enough to dissolve every wall. And perhaps that is the soul's highest purpose. Not to become perfect, but to become whole in love. If these words made something within you stir, take a moment to leave a comment below. Write what you feel, because sometimes a single honest sentence from your heart can reach someone who is quietly searching for proof that love still exists in this world. There are rebirths that happen quietly. No tears, no breaking, no thunder. Just a morning when you wake up and notice that you're seeing the world through softer eyes. Everything looks the same. The room, the sky, the voices. But inside, something has shifted. No more resistance, no more expectation, no more asking why, only breath, and a quiet knowing that everything is exactly where it needs to be. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." You are not what has happened to you. You are what you choose to become. And when you finally feel this truth, not just understand it, you realize that every wound, every loss, every heartbreak was never there to destroy you, but to open you. Each pain was a seed of awakening quietly planted in your path. You no longer wish to erase the past. You begin to bow to it. Because now you know, without the pain that once broke you, you would never have learned how to love this deeply or how to be this peaceful. When the soul is reborn, life stops being a problem to solve and becomes an experience to live. You no longer need to understand everything. You just need to be here. You no longer need to be perfect. You just need to be real. You no longer need to be approved. You just need to know you are enough. Rebirth doesn't arrive in a moment of glory. It arrives in the smallest details, in the way you breathe slower, in the way you listen more, in the way you can look at someone who once hurt you and no longer feel your heart tighten. That is the sign of a soul that has grown, not in strength, but in gentleness. Rebirth is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning to the one you were before the world taught you fear, before love became attached to loss, before trust was diluted by pain. You return to your purest essence, the part of you that can love without reason, that can see pain and still smile, that can stand in chaos and remain still inside. And then you realize peace is not a destination. It is the way you walk. There are no goals to chase, no points to prove. Each breath becomes a small lifetime, and with every breath, you are born again. Jung once wrote, "As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of being." And now you see. The purpose of existence is not to seek light, but to become it. You don't need to shine brightly. You only need to glow enough to find your own way home. This is the peace of someone who has walked through every storm and understands. Nothing needs to be avoided, and nothing needs to be held. Everything is simply moving, and so are you. In that moment, your soul feels like a field after rain, soft, alive, quietly renewed. No more declarations, no more promises, just the gentle willingness to exist and to let life flow through you. Because that is what rebirth truly means. Not starting over, but starting to live fully, honestly, and awake. When the soul has returned to peace, it begins to live with a quiet purpose. Not to achieve, but to express what it has learned. To live as light, even in the simplest of moments. After a long journey of healing and rebirth, a quiet new phase begins. When the soul no longer asks, "Who am I?" but begins to live that answer with every breath. You no longer search for the meaning of life, because the way you live now, with awareness, compassion, and presence, is the meaning. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when that truth finally roots itself in you, everything you touch, no matter how simple, carries a vibration of truth. A word, a glance, a gentle touch can move someone deeply, because you no longer speak with your mouth. You speak with your soul. This is the phase of the subtle purpose. Not a purpose to achieve, but a purpose to express. You no longer work to be meaningful. You simply act because life within you longs to unfold. When you write, it's energy taking form as words. When you heal, it's love wanting to be shared. When you sit in silence, it's the soul resting in its own rhythm. You become a vessel of light, not a teacher, not a savior, just a quiet flame walking through the world. You don't need to shine brightly, only to stay warm enough for those who are lost to find rest in your calm. Carl Jung once wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And once you've looked into your own heart, you stop chasing someone else's dream. You walk gently, but every step you take leaves an imprint deeper than any loud declaration. To live as light doesn't mean you have no darkness. It means you have learned how to hold both, the light and the shadow, without judgment, without fear. You understand that light gains meaning only when it passes through the dark and still remains itself. You no longer strive to be good, you strive to be true. And in that truth, others see themselves reflected. When you live as light, you are no longer controlled by outcomes. You do what feels right, not for recognition, not for reward. You quietly plant seeds and trust the universe to decide when they bloom. An awakened soul doesn't leave the world. It breathes within it, but with a transparent heart. It loves without clinging, gives without counting, exists without needing to be seen. Others may not understand. They may call you distant, too quiet, too deep. But that no longer stirs you, because now you know. The only thing worth keeping is peace in everything you do. To live as light doesn't mean to live for others to see. It means to see yourself in everything, in a stranger's smile, in a drop of rain resting on a leaf, in the breath of morning that touches your skin. And in that quiet seeing, you softly whisper, "We are one." Perhaps this is the most beautiful stage of all. You no longer wish to rise higher, you wish to go deeper. You no longer wish to be remembered, you wish to be present. You no longer seek love as a reward, you love as naturally as you breathe. When the soul lives as light, it doesn't try to convince the world. It allows the world to feel. There is no need to say, "I am awakened," because your stillness already says it for you. Carl Jung once wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And once you do, you become the freest being on earth, for there is nothing left to prove and nothing left to fear. From this point on, you no longer search for meaning. You are the meaning. And as you live this way, you leave a mark not through fame, but through the quiet fragrance of peace that lingers long after you're gone. And when the soul has learned to live as light, only one thing remains, to return to the ultimate stillness, where there is no one shining and no one being shone upon, only life itself, breathing through you. Every star eventually returns to the darkness, not to disappear, but to dissolve into a greater light. The human soul is the same. It does not vanish. It simply returns to the place where all light begins. There comes a moment at the end of every journey when you no longer know whether you are finishing or beginning. There is nothing left to hold and nothing left to release. Everything softens, like mist blending into wind, like a drop of water falling into the ocean and realizing it was never separate from the sea. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Until you bring light to the unseen, it will rule your life, and you will call it destiny." And now, when even the farthest corners of your darkness have tasted light, you are no longer guided by fear. You are guided by awareness. Awakening is no longer a place to reach. It breathes within you as natural as the rhythm of your heart. Peace no longer needs to be maintained. It is your nature. Love no longer needs to be practiced. It is what you are. Meaning no longer needs to be found. It is what you have become. When the soul returns to absolute stillness, all boundaries dissolve. There is no one shining and no one being shone upon. No teacher, no student, no right or wrong, no me and them. There is only life, breathing, flowing, expanding quietly through you. Each breath becomes a tiny universe. Each moment, an embrace of eternity. You look at a flower and see the cosmos breathing within it. You hear the wind and feel your own pulse inside its rhythm. The stillness you touch now is not emptiness. It is the source of all movement. Not a silence of death, but a silence full of life, where everything arises, blooms, and fades within the arms of serenity. Jung once wrote, "The self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference, which embraces both conscious and unconscious. The true self is not a point inside your mind, but the circle that holds everything, light and shadow, known and mysterious, birth and return. And in that unity, you know you have come home. No validation is needed, no explanation required. Because the soul has always had one purpose, to return to the source, to return to stillness, to return to the light that was never lost, only forgotten for a while, in the beautiful dream of being human. Now you no longer try to live, you let life live through you. You no longer try to love, you let love breathe through every gesture. You no longer try to understand, you let knowing unfold naturally, like air moving through your lungs. This is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning of another. A life not defined by seeking, but by being, where everything you once prayed for has quietly bloomed within you. In this stillness, your soul is like the moon reflected on water. It doesn't try to shine, yet everything around it is touched by its light. And so, the journey ends, not with words, but with silence that contains everything. If you're still here, if your heart is quietly trembling, take a moment to breathe with this stillness. And when you're ready, leave a comment below. Share what you feel, or the instant you realized you had come home. Sometimes, a few honest words can be the bridge that helps someone else find their own light again. And if you wish to keep walking this path with me, subscribe to the channel so we can continue exploring. Not to find something new, but to remember the oldest truth. We were never separate from the light. Thank you for staying, for listening, and for having the courage to come all the way home.